earlier. Uh, Dr. Venkatesan, are you here? Dr. Venkatesan. So one more thing, I shared two times the attendance form. Uh, I request to all of you kindly fill the attendance form. Meanwhile, I am trying to contact Dr. Venkatesan. So now we have Dr. Venkatesan from Triple IT Allahabad. Welcome, sir. Dr. S. Venkatesan.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh.
Uh,
Good morning.
Good
Am
morning,
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are
Oh,
audible
okay.
and very heartily welcome for this.
Thank you.
Now we are going to start our second session. For this second session, we have Dr. S. Venkatesan. Uh, Dr. S. Venkatesan is an associate professor at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Allahabad. He obtained his PhD degree from Anna University in 2010. His research interests include mobile agent security, applied cryptography, blockchain, and cloud computing. Uh, Dr. S. Venkatesan spent 2.2 years collaborative direct basic research on smart and secure environment project funded by the National Technical Research Organization NTRO as a scientific associate. He has published his research in several high quality journals and conferences. So now I request to sir kindly share your presentation and start this session.
Okay, thank you very much. So before I start, let me ask that is the board visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I may use it for some time. Okay, not completely, because some of the network vulnerabilities I have not covered in the slides. So I thought I can draw the picture and brief that.
Okay,
So
sir. Okay, no problem, sir. This is
okay,
visible.
okay, thank you. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not sharing only the slide because I want to show some demo. So in that time, the complete screen is required. Okay. So now I hope the slides are visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for the opportunity given to me, and very good morning to all the participants and the organizers. So I will be talking about some of the basic things about the network and web security. I hope you might have had a lot of expert lectures in the last 4 days, and this will be like very basic things, and I will not cover much in detail about the recent works, what is going on, but I can give some solutions for whatever vulnerabilities I am going to discuss on network protocols as well as on the web security provisions we have. So before I start, I would like to thank different various authors, because I took different pictures from various platforms and the publications, and since they made it public, so I could use it. So I would like to thank all of them before I proceed. So the general overview when we talk about the network security or web security or the computer security. So the entire concept, the requirement of this is to secure the data. So the ultimate goal is to secure the data, which means we want to ensure the confidentiality, integrity and availability, this you know. So to secure that, we talk about various things like web security, network security and computer security, because we have to make sure the infrastructure, even the devices are not hacked by the attacker so that our data will be safe. So when it comes into the network security, we have to talk about the protocols. There are various protocols we use for the communication purpose when we are going to transmit the data. So most of the protocols are well designed, and there are protocols which was designed for some better purpose, but you know what happened, the attackers try to find out the loopholes in that and they will try to exploit it. So because of that, we will face a lot of trouble. So one example I will give you, in 2018 there was an attack, Mirai bot. So what they have done is, the attack was very simple. These IoT devices, I hope you all know, there are so many devices bought from are supplied from a particular manufacturing industry. So, and what they have done is, they have given some default username and password for all the devices when it was supplied, and people purchased and they just used the same username and password, that is the default username and password, and they have not made any change. So later what happened, some attacker who identified this, and you know the passwords were, the username and passwords were made as public. Okay, it is there in the internet, even you can see now also, they have made some 32 credentials. So what the attacker has done is, they have used that username and password and tried to control all other machines, whatever machines having the default username and password, they try to compromise that. So here they brought this botnet concept. So there was a master who controls it, controls the slave nodes, and that slave nodes again bring some other nodes into the botnet. So they made it very big botnet network. After that, they sent the denial of service attack to one of the DNS servers, that is DYN DNS server. And you know the GitHub uses that DNS server. So when there was massive number of DNS requests into that server, then it becomes the denial of service. So what happens because of denial of service? The availability has gone. So when the request went from the malicious users, that is the botnet users, the genuine users were not able to get the service, where it has become denial of service and unavailability of the service. So in this way, they completely made some of the websites not accessible for some period of time. So like this, every protocol if you take, even though it is well designed, there may be one or other vulnerabilities present and attacker will try to use. And you know, doing attack on any of the protocol or identifying the vulnerability on any of the protocol is not so easy, because the protocol is developed by somebody else and the code was written by somebody else, and it will be implemented on the remote machine. So the attacker has to find out how he can see the loophole in irrespective of all these three things. So that's why the ethical hackers are more paid in some of the cases when they were given the job. Okay, so I don't want to go more detail about it. So let's start with two very well-known vulnerability protocols. One is the ICMP protocol and another one is the TCP protocol. I hope you know, you all must have studied in your computer networks that we have the TCP IP stack, and the TCP protocol is used in the transport layer and the ICMP protocol is used in the network layer. So these two protocols are developed and implemented for a specific reason. For example, TCP is to establish the connection between the two nodes, and ICMP, it has various benefits. One of the benefits is that it will find out whether the remote machine is live or not. So I hope you know the ping command. I request all of you, in case you have any query, you can ask me in between. No need to wait till I complete my lecture. So is it clear? Okay. So the first protocol is the ICMP protocol. So let me use the board for some time and then I will come back. So what the ICMP protocol does is, if you have two machines, and one of the applications of ICMP protocol is the ping command, that is a packet internet dropper, so which you all know. Using the ping command, you will come to know whether the particular machine is live or not. You write that ping google.com. Sometimes you give the domain name, or mostly we use IP address. Using the IP address, this machine will come to know, let's assume this is google.com. So this will come to know whether this particular machine is live or not by looking at the reply, whatever the response comes. So this packet, that ICMP protocol, has some packet structure. So which has type, then code, checksum, and it has the data also. So this is the format of the ICMP protocol, but it varies when we realize this in the Wireshark tool. So this type, code and checksum, I am not going to talk about it. So this data part, okay, we don't give any data when we are going for ping google.com. So what happens is, by default, the tool takes some value as the data. So the actual value is A, B, C, D up to Z, and according to whatever size we are giving, we give some sizes 34 characters. Then what happens? It repeats after 26. The ABC repeats. So in this way, the data is, the request is sent. When the response comes, the data will remain same. Whatever the client sends us the request data, the same data will come back. Okay. So now, what is the vulnerability in this? The first vulnerability is covered channel. So I hope this is visible. So what they do in the covered channel is, they will use some authorized way to send unauthorized data. For example, if we send ICMP packet, it goes to the firewall. If we use the firewall read the headers, that is the source IP, destination IP, and then it passes it. So what the attacker will do, let's assume that there is a network where people are restricted to send some of the confidential data. So in that case, if I am sending the confidential data from the application layer, it will be filtered out, because in application layer they will have all the control. But what attackers will do is, they will use this part. They will take this part and they may write whatever they want to write in this place. Instead of the default one, they may write whatever they want, and then it will be sent. When it goes to the firewall will go through only this source IP, destination IP, port number, and then the destination number, destination port number. It never looks into the payload part, that is the ICMP payload part. So this they utilize and they communicate with the other users. This is one of the vulnerability. Second vulnerability is fingerprint. That is OS fingerprint. So I will show you by sharing my screen. you able to see this, guys? Oh, okay, thank you. So now you can see here, when I ping, there was a response. What the response is reply from so and so IP, bytes is 32, that is 32 bytes of data is sent back, and the time is less than 1 millisecond. In less than 1 millisecond, I got the output, that is the response has come, and the TTL is 62. Okay, so now they utilize this part. So what happens for every operating system and its version, there is a TTL defined. So if the default, if you see this 62 means actual TTL is 64, and due to some hops in between, it becomes 62. So otherwise it is 64. So if you take the Linux machine, which is Ubuntu, that by default the TTL is 64. So what happens from this, attacker will understand what operating system is used by the server or at the server. So if it is somewhat related to around 60 to 63 or 58 to 63, you can understand the particular server uses the Ubuntu operating system. So accordingly, for all the operating system, the TTL values are defined. So from that, attacker will definitely come to know what type of operating system you are using. So this is the second vulnerability which creates too many problems, because once we know the operating system, accordingly we will plan the attack. That is a further exploitation. If you don't know the operating system, you know that in most of the cases they say if we have Windows, then it has more loopholes when compared to Linux based machine. So, and they have to first identify what type of operating system is used. That can be identified through the ping protocol. So let me try to ping the same machine. Just 1 minute. So you can see here, I'm pinging the same machine. There is no hop in between, but you can see it is 128. So this particular machine is having Windows. Okay, you can see the difference from this. This one is 62 and this one is 128. So you can predict that so and so machine is using some X operating system. So how we can overcome this type of attack? This is not the attack. This is like scanning. They are gathering some information. How we can overcome this is, by default, all the operating system takes the TTL, whatever is defined by the developer of the operating system. So we have to modify that. Once we modify, no attacker or the hacker will come to get what type of operating system we are using. So in that way, we can avoid this. And the third one is ping of death. So here what happens? So you have seen that it is simple, just like that I will send some ping the IP address, then the request will go. And by default the number of bytes is 32, that is the data size that I will be sending. But if I want to target somebody, instead of 32 bytes, I will increase the size, which will be very high. But you have to make sure that your system supports that. And not only that, if I am making alone, I am not going to perform any attack, even though I have the intention to perform the attack, but it will not be successful. Because the server have huge infrastructure, but whatever I am having is comparatively very, very less than the server. So I cannot perform the attack and it could be successful. So what I have to do is, I will create the group that, as I said, for Mirai bot, I can create the network. That is the creating that network, I can perform the distributed denial of service. So how we can do is, so let's say this is the victim, and here are so many users, they all are compromised and they form a net, that is the botnet kind of thing. There will be a master and all, that's not required. So all of them will send the ping request at one point of time. So if there are so many request goes, here I am showing only 6. 6 is not sufficient to perform the attack. You have to take in 10,000 or in lakhs, then only you can perform the attack. Otherwise, you know what kind of infrastructure Google is having that can easily handle these many requests. So when huge number of requests goes, this particular server has to answer only to the attacker queries, not to the genuine users. So because of this, they can perform the ping of death. That means this machine will not be available for service. That is for the genuine users. Okay. And second, what they can do is, if these are the attackers, okay, and again this is the victim. Let's take only one attacker. This is the attacker, and this one is the victim, and the broadcast address. So you know, in network broadcast address, it goes to all the users, whoever is connected in so and so network. What this guy will do is, he will take the source IP address as this particular machine, source address as this particular machine, destination as broadcast. It goes to all. So then what happens when the response has to come back, because you have seen now that reply has come back. When the reply comes, this all will go to the victim. So when it goes to the victim in massive, then again he cannot provide the service to the genuine users. So this they call it as the Smurf attack. So if you see all these three things, even though the protocol is developed or introduced for some good reason, but attacker will try to find out, or they already found the way to exploit the protocol and perform that. So how this can be avoided? This can be avoided by restricting. There are so many solutions available. One of that is, in particular network, don't create unnecessary, or we can say, if you want to connect n number of machines, let's say n is a small n number of machine, don't give the IP address, that is the possible IP address, as the capital N, where small n is very less than small n is very less than n. So in that case, what happens, if you are making, if you want to connect only 5 machines, maximum you give 8 IP address to the network. So in that case, if you are having, if the attacker performs broadcast attack also, this will not harm the machine a lot. Okay, and the second thing, if they are going to take the IP address of another network, again that will not be allowed, because the router or the gateway what we have, using that, it will be prevented, or it can be restricted. So in this way, we can control the attack or the vulnerability exploited on the ICMP protocol. So the next one is the TCP protocol. So where they perform the TCP SYN flooding attack, because you know, to establish the connection, the first protocol or the first request will be SYN request, then the receiver will send SYN plus ACK. After that, the ACK will go. So in this way, the connection gets established. But what attacker will do is, once the SYN goes, the SYN acknowledgement comes, and since he is the attacker and he doesn't want to establish the connection, again he will send the SYN request. So acknowledgement comes, again he sends. So what he is going to gain out of this is, there is a block called the transmission control block at the server side, which is having certain storage. Okay, that storage we can call that as the cache, temporary cache. So for every request, the entry is made here, and for all the requests, the entry is made. Once the SYN, the acknowledgement comes, that means, let's say this acknowledgement comes, then the entry will be removed. That means it will be available for other users. But what attacker will do? They send, and some response comes, they discard, again they send SYN, again they send SYN. So what happens? The entry is filled. Okay, the complete cache is filled. Once it is filled, if any user comes, then there will be an overflow. Once the overflow happens, that means there is a denial of service attack. Okay, so in this way, they can perform or they can exploit the TCP protocol. So again I say, the TCP protocol is developed for some reason, but attacker identifies the vulnerability and they will exploit it. So how we can control this is, we have the new protocol. It is not very new, it's also old. There is a protocol called the Stream Control Transmission Protocol, which is the later version of TCP, we can say. So in this, if the SYN request goes, they don't store anything in the transmission control block. They put everything as a cookie and then send back here. After that, this the sender, that is a client, has to send another request with the cookie. Once that comes, then only the entry will be made, otherwise the entry will not be made. And you know the attacker don't wait for some response, they want to keep on sending. If they have to wait for some response, then they cannot make the attack successful. Okay, so in that way the SCTP gives solution for this vulnerability. In addition to that, there are so many solutions provided in the literature you can go through. So these two are just I want to show that what vulnerabilities or how it can be exploited when we are talking about the network security. Okay, so once this will be exploited, then what will happen? Your infrastructure will not be available. Okay, similarly, there is a problem of confidentiality also, and there is a problem of integrity also. So when it comes into the confidentiality and integrity, mostly we will be talking about the application layer. So let me move on to the web security part. So if I talk about the web security, that means the application layer protocols, and there are so many attacks or vulnerabilities available or that can be exploited. If you see as per the 2012 report, and these are the vulnerabilities that are possible on in the web server or the web service. So according to 2012, the percentage of attack performed by exploiting so and so vulnerabilities is listed. This is from Wikipedia. You can see this 37% have exploited the cross-site scripting, 16% have exploited SQL injection. The remaining things are like it's 5% or 4%. And you can see here the code injection, which becomes 15%. This also because of the cross-site scripting and the SQL injection. So these things are discussed in the OWASP project, where they say that when you develop any web application, you have to make sure that a list of things are not having any vulnerabilities. Okay, I will be discussing about few things. The first is SQL injection, then cross-site scripting, denial of service, path disclosure. So I will be talking only about these 4 things. So when we talk about the SQL injection, you know that we use SQL query, that is a structured query language, when we are going to have the database. And you can see any of the applications, 99% all the web service will use the database because they have to provide the service using the data. So those data will be kept in the database in the form of relational database or in the form of NoSQL database, or they can keep it in XML or whatever format they want. And most of the time they keep in the MySQL or Oracle or we can say this PostgreSQL kind of things. So what is this SQL injection is when we have the data in the database and that can be accessed. That means we can interact with the database through the SQL queries, that is the structured language queries. So when we are making the query, there is a possibility attacker may inject something malicious. Because of that malicious, they can make some update on the database, or they can bring out some other things or unauthorized things from there. So if I am the user, I have to get some data, but I perform some injection. Because of that, I will get more data for which I am not deserved. So this happens because of the SQL injection. So there are different types of SQL injection possible. First is the first order SQL injection, then second order SQL injection, and third is the lateral order SQL injection. So what is the first order SQL injection is the attacker will directly get into the database and do whatever they want. That means if we have a website and it will ask for some data, you have to feed it through some box where they have given. So when you have the box, there is a possibility that most of the time that will be the text box. The user will feed some data where that may be the SQL injection also they can do. To perform the SQL injection, there are some certain way to write that. I will show one example. So once they feed it and it goes to the database, there it will get executed. So when there is an execution happens, whatever attacker tries to perform using the SQL injection, that will be successful. In case of second order, they don't directly do it. They do it indirectly. That means first they post the data into the database. Once they post the data, nothing is going to happen. It will just store there. Later, when it becomes used by somebody else, then the actual operation will happen, whatever the SQL injection was intended for. And the third one is the lateral order. In the lateral order, what happens? They don't modify the data of the database. They will modify the function, whatever function, predefined function, they will try to modify that. By modifying that, they can gain whatever they want to achieve. So let me go for first order SQL injection first. So this is the database I have with so many tables, and you can see this is one web page I temporarily made. The first one is to perform the first order SQL injection, and these two are to perform the second order SQL injection. So here you can see there is a field roll number which is of type varchar, and what I am going to do is I am going to feed something in this place so that I will extract that particular information. Let's say there is a data, particular value. So you can see the roll number has Venkat.ta as one entry. Now I want to fetch Venkat.ta from the table. So I made some change in the code. Don't think that this change is required when you have to perform the attack. The reason is you will not get provision to modify the code at the server side. Okay, you have only the interface. Whatever attack you have to perform, that has to be performed only using that interface. You don't have any other option. Okay, here why I am making this change. Sometimes the field whatever I have taken is the varchar, and that should be given in the codes because that is the string. So when I pass not as the string, then it will not get executed. So it's depend on what attribute and its type you are using on your database. Accordingly, also the SQL injection can be performed. So now you see, now it just brings out that whatever I am fetching, the query is very simple. Select star from so and so table, that is the student one, where roll number equal to Venkat.ta, that Venkat.ta I have given here. So it brought that and printed whatever is there in the roll number. Okay. So now what I am going to do is I am going to perform the SQL injection, that is a first order SQL injection. What is happening here? So previously when I give the particular roll number, then or we can say the value what we are fetching, that comes into the to the user. But when I am going to perform this operation 999 or 1 equal to 1, it brings out whatever that particular table contains in the roll number field. So all the things are coming. So in this way the SQL injection is performed. So how it is happening? So let's say I write the query You can see this query. I hope this is visible. The query is select star from student 1, that is the table name, where roll number equal to so some X I have given. So what comes into this place is 999 or 1 equal to 1. So what it happens in this place is the query is little changed. Now the query is written as select star from student 1, where roll number equal to 999 or 1 equal to 1. You know that 1 equal to 1 will always be true. Okay, so what happens? This query is successful when it goes into this particular accessing the data. It will extract all the data and bring out, because the query is completely successful. That means it extracts all the data. So I hope you understand what happens in this place. Because of this OR condition, if I use AND condition, then it will not work, because both has to be successful. And here I am using OR condition if any one satisfies, because 999 will not satisfy, and also I don't know what roll number is present in that place. But I know this part, and I can use OR so that I can make sure that I can extract all the data. So here I am showing only the roll number field, but it's depend on the web server or website. There may be possibility the complete data will be fetched of the particular user. And if the attacker exploit this, they can get the complete information of all the users, whoever data is there in the table. So this one is first order SQL injection. You can see directly I feed the data and I get. Now it is something different. You can see this table again. Let's say I will write here something 2. So now I am going to feed some value to this field. So now let's feed like this. So now the value is feeded. You can see this, that whatever I have given, it is feeded, and there is no action happen here. Okay, so nothing is feeded. Here it is only update on the so and so field, or we can do the insert also. Now the value is inserted. After inserting, somebody is going to fetch that data. Let's say here I am fetching the data. Okay, or the same person will fetch the data. When he is going to fetch the data, you can see it brings out all the information, because this data is already stored. So here what happens? It happens indirectly. In second order SQL injection, first the data is posted into the database. After that, it is exploited. So this is what called as second order SQL injection. So I hope this is clear. If any doubt, then please let me know. So then next, let's go to the lateral order injection. So in the lateral order injection, what happens? There are files, there are functions available in the database. It may be MySQL implementation or Oracle implementation. So attackers will try to exploit that function. For example, you can see there is some format given for the date. Okay, this NLS refers that country format, that is a New York based country format. Don't get confused with that. The date format is something predefined. Now what the attacker will do is they will try to alter the particular function. That here you can see the time is, instead of hour, minutes, and or we can say hour, minutes and seconds, they may write something else. The time is something. So here you may see that there is no problem with this, but attacker may add something else instead of the time is. So once this is modified in the database, so whenever any user goes to access the data, for example, he want to access the data which is in some format but into some other format. That format is already altered by the attacker. So then you can see it is displayed as the time is, whatever format he has given, the attacker has given, the same format it will display. So this one says that there is no problem in displaying like this, but instead of the time is, there is a possibility attacker may put some other information. And you know, performing the first order and second order SQL injection is little easy compared to lateral order. In lateral order, you have to alter the table, which will be little complex. In using the first order and second order also, you can alter the table, or even you can delete the table. Okay, but in lateral order injection, you need some additional permission to do that, because you are going to change the session and also the function, the predefined function. So you need some additional access, or we can say authorization to do that, because I never performed this lateral order injection. I performed only these two injection, and that too I have not performed on any of the machines, any of the outside machines. I developed the website, and there itself whatever I have shown you, accordingly only I have done that. So now what is the solution for this? How we can do it? So as I said here, once we give select star from student 1 where roll number equal to, so here the query is getting executed. So since you can see in this, so when we have this value 999 or 1 equal to 1, if this one goes as a data, then there will not be an issue, but it goes as an executable code. See, 999 is a value, we can say, but when we talk about 1 equal to 1, something has to be executed. So the query will be executed like select star from student 1 where roll number equal to 999 or 1 equal to 1. So it get executed. So it is not taken as the data. So what we can do is, so we have the provision that we can apply the prepared statement. So that is the facility given in the SQL implementation itself. So in prepared statement, what we do is, let me open that. So you can see this, what is happening here, the same query we are writing, select star from, let's say instead of question, let it be select star from student 1 where roll number equal to, that becomes here question number, then ID and answer. So now in this case, the benefit is first this get executed, that is compiled. Okay, after compiling this, the executable code is available. Once the executable code is available, you have only provision to feed data. You cannot give one more executable data. So your data goes as a, or your SQL injection request goes as a data. Since it is going as a data, no action will happen, because that is only data, not the executable code. Okay, so why they go for second order SQL injection is because of that. When I want to perform first order SQL injection and I used prepared statement, which compiled the query and it is waiting to execute. When at the time of execution, if I perform SQL injection using the first order, then it becomes the data and it gets stored in the database if it has to be inserted or updated, or any other activity like delete the table or alter the table, that is not going to happen. But you can store it in the table. Once it is stored, what we think is, when we design the database or the web service, or we can say website, we feel that when the client sends the data, there will be a problem of SQL injection. But when we use the same data, we think that there is no problem of SQL injection. So attacker puts the SQL injection where there is no response or no activity happened. But when you are going to use it, that is the developer side, if they are going to use it, then the injection will happen. Okay, the injection may be delete the table. So in that case also we need second order prevention. Okay, so it is not that only the client will directly do it, they can do indirectly also through the second order. That's why whatever query we are writing, we have to make sure that it should be in the form of prepared statement. So then what is stored procedure is, it is similar to prepared statement. In case of prepared statement, what happens for every execution, that is whenever we call the particular web page, we have to compile the code and keep it for execution. But in case of stored procedure, you know that PLSQL, where you write it and compile it and keep it. That is only once. So later, whenever it comes, it will go only for execution. So that is the advantage when we are going for stored procedure. And you know, sometimes this prepared statement and stored procedure will always not help in overcoming the SQL injection. So it is better you remove the escape symbols. For example, if somebody writes 1 equal to 1, don't allow to have this 1. So what happens if I don't give this 1 equal to 1, because then it will not be a condition, it will be like a normal data, and that gets stored here. You can see this. And now when I am going to perform second order SQL injection, nothing, it should not bring actually it should not bring, I don't know, the query is having 999 or 11. In this case, both are failing and it should not bring. I don't know why it brings all the data. I will check it later. But so the thing you should know is, if we perform the query, so if we write the query and if it get executed, and here you see this roll number equal to 999 or 11. Definitely both are not going to match and it should not access, but it is accessing. I will check it later. But when we are removing this symbols, which is maybe single quotes or double quotes, because of that you can control the SQL injection. Now you can see here I have given add slashes. So what this add slashes does is, if you are going to have some single quotes or the double quotes, before the single quotes or double quotes, the slash will be added. And in SQL injection, most of the time they use the single quotes or double quotes. And if you include the slash before the single quotes, then the desired attack cannot be performed. So in this way, we can control the SQL injection attack. So in SQL injection, we were discussing about the first order, second order and the lateral order injection. There is a possibility that other types, it cannot be other types, it is like the same first order or SQL second order injection, we gather some information. So what happens at first, one is error based SQL injection. When you send something and you get output as error, when error comes, you will definitely know. For example, if you are going to search for some particular data, hello, okay, and when you get the responses like, because when you are going to get authentication using the username and password, and if you give the wrong username and password, it will definitely show the error. That means you are not allowed to get into the website. So from that, there is a possibility they will gather the information, because when the output comes, you know that it is wrong, then you will go for the next attempt. So it will be like that, so they can perform the SQL injection and gather the information. And next is the union based SQL injection. What they do here is, you have one SQL query and they will add one more SQL query where they will do as union. When they do union, because of that, you can extract some of the information from the database. And the third one is the blind SQL injection. Here again, you will not see anything. In Boolean, the response will come as true or false. And in time based, it takes certain time to give the data. So from that, they will understand what is there in the database. And it is not very simple. They have to perform a lot of attempts and they have to apply a lot of algorithms to identify or predict something. So in case of Boolean, based on the true or false, and in case of time based, they will see how much time it takes to execute. Accordingly, they will predict whatever they are looking for. So in this way, the SQL injection can be performed and it can be mitigated also using all these things. Okay, and most of the time we use this prepared statement and this removing the escape symbols. So I suggest So when you develop, you also do that. But you know what happens these days? You have the object-oriented MySQL or the database. So in those case, so in the first level itself, you will be your data will be filtered. After that, it goes. So there again, it minimizes the SQL injection. But you know that once you have something and people, the attackers or the ethical hackers, they always try to explore more and try to find the vulnerabilities and perform that. That is always happens. So the next one is the cross-site scripting. So this one is having, if you see here, this one is having the highest percentage of attack as per the Wikipedia top 10 vulnerabilities. So that has 37% this attack is performed. So what they do in cross-site scripting is they will try to bring some script, that is the JavaScript on the web server or that website. Using that JavaScript, they will extract some information. And not only that, they may try to put some link there which will redirect the client to somewhere else. Okay, so it has two types. One is stored and another one is reflected cross-site scripting. In case of stored, that we keep it in the database. Okay, and it is like they perform the SQL injection, and through SQL injection, the particular URL is stored in the database. And whenever any user access the data from the database, then the particular URL will be available so that the cross-site scripting can be done. So for example, you can see in this, so now there is one URL. Okay, so what is this URL is, this I have feeder. Let's assume that there is a website and they want to have some list of sub links. Okay, that sub links are available in the database. So what as an attacker I will do is I will try to insert my URL into the database which become persistent. Okay, that will be always available. And whenever any user access, that URL will come as a link here. Okay, so even though the website is of the right person, that is the authorized website and authenticated website, the link which it is going to redirect, that may be the unauthorized one. Okay, so this is what the persistent means. It always present in the website. That can be done through modifying the database. And main thing, you cannot modify the code, okay, which is not so easy, but you can easily modify the database. That's why this will be kept in the database. And next thing is the reflected one. So this is not the persistent, it will not be so the first one you can say the stored Excel cross-site scripting is called as persistent or type 1 cross-site scripting. The second one is the reflected, which is non-persistent or type 2 cross-site scripting. So what this reflected cross-site scripting does. So most of the time, I hope you might have received some emails. Okay, they say that this is the link. Maybe it is like the mail from Gmail. To upgrade the memory, you have to click this link and provide the necessary data. So through that also the links will be sent to the page. Okay, maybe through email message or it may be put on the some website. Okay, for example, it may be there in the Google website. Okay, how it happens, that is again through the cross-site scripting injection. So because of these things, the victims may be redirected to some other location where they will disclose the data or disclose the sensitive data. So you can see this, what the cross-site scripting does. So let's say this person is the attacker and this person is the victim and this is the website or the web server, we can say. So what this person will do is he will put his cross-site script code on the web server, okay, through some way. Okay, that may be through the SQL injection also. He will put that. And what that cross-site scripting code is going to do is, it is going to steal the session detail of the user. Okay, because the script is yours, the JavaScript, whatever you are going to write it is yours. So you can write according to your requirement. Once you write and put there, okay, through some way, it may be SQL injection or it may be through the cross-site scripting injection. So once it is put, and whenever some user comes to use the service of this website, it may be the bank also. When user comes to access it, he has to give the credentials. Once it gives the credential, there may be some cookie generated, and that cookie will be sent to this guy, so that in further communication, no need to give the username and password. That credential is not required. Using the session details available in the cookie, it will authenticate for that particular session. So this script, whatever the cross-site script is available here, that send the cookie details to the attacker. So now attacker will utilize that cookie details, because only for the first request the credential is required. From the second request, that is not required, only session detail is required. So using the session detail, this person will try to get into the website. Even though the attacker is getting into the website, the actual person getting into the website is the victim. So whatever he want to do on behalf of the victim, he can perform all the activities. So this is the drawback of cross-site scripting. So again, how we can control it? So don't allow the JavaScript to execute. And these days, what happened, you can see any of the applications or any websites, they always use JavaScript. And you might have seen this Ajax they use, and they use jQuery. And mostly I avoid using all these things when I develop my website. But there are some cases you cannot escape from that. Okay, in those cases, you have to make sure that no code comes through the HTML. That is, because in HTTP request, that is in HTML page, you design a box, that is a text box, from where they will pass the data. So when the data comes, we have to sanitize the data before we use it. So then only we can control this. And second important thing, that is up to the users. So when they get some link, they have to make sure that link comes from the authorized user or the authenticated servers. So we receive, even many of our faculty receive emails that it is sent by email. Actually, email ID will be different, but the name will be the respective person name, and in the signature also they put the same the respective person name. Okay, but the email ID is different. But what happens, most of the time we don't see the email ID. We see that username is there and signature is there. Okay, if it is there, then we believe that it comes from the user whom we know, but it will not be actually that. Okay, so we have to analyze. In case of doubt, you have to analyze the header. That is, if you just see the sender IP address, you will come to know whether it is from the authorized source or not. So in this way, we can mitigate the cross-site scripting attack. And next is the cross-site request forgery. So this is also somewhat similar to cross-site scripting, but it works in some different way. Okay, so what happens in this is, let's say there is a attacker and the victim and the website. Now what happens, here the attacker will be having account on the website. In the previous case, he doesn't have the account. Okay, let's assume that he is having the account in the particular website. He logs in. Okay, after he logs in, what happens is the cookie details will come to him. Okay, definitely all the details will come to him. Once the detail comes, he will send that to this. He may send the email, or he may put it on some website where this victim regularly visits. See, please try to understand. He gets into the machine, he logged into the machine. After he logs in, some details are in that session. Okay, that is given to him. And with the session, and additional information, that means transfer some money that he sent to the victim, okay, through any of the mode. Once he clicks the link, when this victim clicks the link, it goes to the particular website. Okay, once it goes to the particular website, due to delay or it comes from other IP address, again the website will ask for username and password, where the victim is having the user account in this website. So using that account, he will log in. Okay, so it is not login, he is going to refresh the session. So when he is refreshing the session, even though he is authenticated, but other details, whatever this particular attacker sends, that remains. And when he performs any transaction, okay, because that link, whatever he sent, that link may be having some transaction. Okay, so he authenticates. Once he get authenticated by giving his credential or her credential, the website will come to know that now the current user is this person and whose account is some X, and the transaction will be made according to this guy. Okay, maybe taking money from his account to this guy account. Okay, so in this way the cross-site request forgery can be done. So I hope this one is clear. This is little complex. The only thing is you should understand the attack comes from because of vulnerability with the client side. Okay, here it is not because of the server side, it is because of the client side. Client gets the link from somewhere and try to use the web service, and because of that link the web service is working for the attack. So this is what happened in the cross-site request forgery. And even this cross-site request forgery is not identified along with cross-site scripting. It was identified maybe some 7-8 years before. Okay, but cross-site scripting is there for long. So how we can overcome this? Okay, the first thing is logging of applications when not in use. Okay, if you are having some web application and if you are not using, it is better you log off. Otherwise, you know, these days, even in my website, after 3 minutes, automatically you will be logged off. But if you see in Google Gmail, it will not log off. Even if you come after switching off and on, you can find that session remains. And second thing, securing the usernames and passwords. This definitely you will do. And not allowing browsers to remember passwords. This is very important. This also you know very well that in the history we have to remove. It should not remember the password. And very important thing is avoiding simultaneously browsing while logged into an application. Now you can see here, I have logged into Gmail and I have logged into this Overleaf and I have logged into mine and I am having my database also open. If I use some other application where that application has some attack code which can extract the information of other tabs, then definitely it can get it. But you know, the browsers are also not very easily allow any attacker to gather the information because they create like the sandbox. But they try to exploit, because whatever we develop, and it is the job of the hackers or the attackers, they always find some loopholes. Okay, so we have to make sure that when you are using some sensitive website, don't open some other applications. Okay, I was trying for some point of time, but now I'm not able to continue that. And very important thing is, we can say that don't think that you are doing all the things, it may be like not following the procedures, but nothing wrong happened with you. Okay, it is not happening because you are not important. Okay, when you become important and you do the same, you can realize that. Okay, so these things you can follow. And the next thing is the digital certificate. This you all know very well. You can see this particular link. HTTPS is given, which is the combination of HTTP and the SSL protocol, which is the TLS is the later version, they call it as. So using this we can establish the secure connection between the client and the server. So how this secure connection will be established is through the certificate. Okay, so every service is having the website certificate, but there are websites which does not have the certificate. Okay, so, and if there is no certificate and there is no SSL, whatever communication you are going to happen between make between the two nodes, that is the client and server, definitely there is a possibility of sniffing, that is the packet sniffing. Anybody can gather your information. So you can see the certificate details. Okay, the version of the certificate is version 3, and the algorithm what is used for signing and all, and even you can see the authority who has signed it. In ours it is by Komodo. So now it is not Komodo, we have this Sectico RSA organization as the certificate authority. So there are certificate authorities who will give the certificate to some websites or based on the request. So now what is this certificate and who gives it and why it is used? See, in all these cases, whatever we are seeing, these all are making the secure communication. That is, the secure channel is established between the client and the server. So how that secure channel is established? That means we are going to use some cryptography technique. Okay, that means whatever the client and server and client going to send will be completely encrypted and transmitted. So in that case, the secure channel is established. Okay, so now how the key is shared. See, for example, I am accessing google.com and between us the secure channel is established. So based on what the secure channel is established, how do I know that I am interacting with the google.com? And how can I share the key with google.com? See, even though you are not doing it directly, the browser is doing on behalf of you. So for that purpose, so the first thing is we want the secure channel. To establish the secure channel, we need to have the cryptography techniques. And if you are going for the cryptography techniques, you need the key and how that key will be shared and how that key will be authenticated. Yes, this key belongs to that person. That's where the digital certificate comes. So what happens is, if I want to make a website, or if I have a website and I want to have that website with this HTTP plus SSL, that is the HTTPS protocol, where I want to make the secure channel. So the only option I have is I have to create the SSL certificate. So using the SSL certificate, there are attributes, or in the SSL certificate there are attributes. Using that attributes, the key exchange and other things, that the protocol what we are going to use, all the things are negotiated. After that, the secure channel is established. So now, how can I create the SSL certificate? Even you can create on your own, on your machine, and you can use it. But if you are having your own, how somebody else will recognize that? So that is not possible. So for that, they have the certificate authorities. Okay, there are very well-known certificate authorities who will give the certificate. So if we have to get the certificate, what we have to do is we have to generate the key pair using the algorithm. It may be RSA algorithm, or it may be elliptic curve, or whatever it may be, but you have to use asymmetric key cryptography. So you will be generating the key pair, and private key you will keep it with you. You should not give, because you know private key is the one going to claim the ownership. And the public key along with the organization details, for example, we are IEEE, along with our public key, we give the details of our organization to the certificate authority. Okay, that is through the request. So what the certificate authority will do, they will verify whether the so and so organization is there or not. If it is there, they will see that all the other requirements are completed, that is like public key is there and other informations are there, then they will issue the certificate. So what that certificate will contain? The certificate will contain all these things. So this is the certificate. Even you can see this is issued by, and on the domain name, and you see the validity of the certificate. So after this date, the certificate is not valid. Okay, because if any certificate authority gives certificate for lifelong, so once you get the certificate, you may misbehave. Okay, because of that, they made it like now you cannot have certificate for more than 1 year. So they have come very recently. I think from October 3rd or September 15th, they have started this. And you can see the complete certificate details. All the things will be present in this. So now, after having this certificate, once I have the certificate from the certification authority, whenever somebody access my website, okay, when somebody access the IIITA website, this certificate will be sent along with the other data. Okay, once the certificate goes there, that means if you access IIITA.ac.in on your browser, the response will be the certificate of IIITA.ac.in also, digital certificate. Once it goes, that means you are not doing anything, your browser is doing all the things. Your browser has already the certificate, that is the certificate authorities. Certificates are pre-installed on your browser. For example, here you can see the certificate for IIITA is issued by these people. Okay, and when I send that certificate to you, how will you verify that the certificate whatever I received from this so and so is correct or not? So what happens is, by default on your browser, this particular organization certificate will also be available. Okay, when you install the browser, there are some certificates, they call it as root certificate or intermediate root certificates. All those are by default installed on the browser. So when I send my certificate and it is signed by this guy and this organization, and this organization certificate is already available on the browser, because that is considered as a trusted one, because it comes from the developer. For example, if I download Mozilla Firefox, it comes from the Mozilla. Okay, Mozilla gives all the certificate. So when the Mozilla gives this, it is trusted. So when this particular organization signed on my certificate, so that can be verified easily when you access my website, and when my certificate comes, you see that the certificate is signed by this user, this organization, and this particular organization certificate is already available on the browser. So that what the browser will do is, it will take its public key and verify the signature on my certificate, whether it is signed by this organization or not. If it is signed by this organization, if it is successfully validated, then my certificate is validated. That is, the certificate what I am using is for IIITA.ac.in, and the certificate whatever or the web service whatever I am giving is of IIITA.ac.in. So in this way, we can say the authentication of the websites will be achieved. Okay, so in this case, what happens? Only server authentication happens, not the client authentication. When we want client authentication, then we have to go for client-side certificate also. But that's not so easy. There will be massive number of clients. You cannot go for all. But if you have some restricted web service or a restricted group, in that case, you can go for it. And you see, I will do only one thing. Let me try to change the date. It's not allowing. So I never try to change the date. This is going to calendar only. So if you try to change the date, okay, so then what happens? This particular most of the time you can realize it shows as the invalid certificate, even though the certificate is valid, but you can see as the invalid certificate. The reason is, you see the duration of the certificate is only this much. Okay, if on your machine most of the time you can realize that the time will be different. Okay, the date and time. So if today it is 8, it may show us instead of 20, it may show us 21. Okay, in that case, the certificate will not be valid. You will get some error. Okay, now you can see this error in many of the websites. The reason is that I said already, very recently these certificate authorities come with the proposal that we don't issue the certificate for not more than 1 year. Okay, it should be like for 400 days exactly. If the certificate having more than that or less than that will always show the error. Okay, so that you can realize when you access different websites. So this is the reason for having the digital certificate, and we can authenticate the websites. So because most of the time what happens, we don't know whom we are communicating and we will feed our data. Okay, they perform the phishing attack, and based on the phishing, they can gather all our sensitive data. So I was talking about one word, that is the root certificate. What is that root certificate means? If I have a certificate that is signed by some other person, that is the certificate authority. But for the root certificate, the same person will do the signature because nobody else is there on top of them. Okay, the signature is done by themselves. And also that becomes the default certificate for the browsers. Okay, when you download, by default, those certificates are part of the browser, and you can see those certificates in your browsers, whatever by default comes. So next is the denial of service attack you can perform. So how you can perform the denial of service is, you cannot just like that perform the denial of service on any web service. For example, you go for login page. So you send massive number of requests to login page. What happens is it just runs a query whether it is available or not. If it is available, then error. If it is available, then allow you. Okay, the complexity required in that case is very less. But there may be some web page, when you feed some data, it has to analyze on massive set of data. So in that case, it takes more time. What attacker will do is they will try to concentrate on that particular web page, and they send massive number of requests. That is, they perform the distributed denial of service attack. So if the case is so, the service will not be available for other users. Okay, most of the time you can see in IRCTC also. So I cannot say that the attack is happening there and there was no attack, but there were huge request goes and it has to search from the massive list. Okay, because of that it takes time, and maybe the attacker will utilize that. You know, but this IRCTC will not allow without authentication, and you can have only one connection. You cannot have more than one connection during a period of time. So there is no way of performing the distributed denial of service, and that will be successful. And next is the session hijacking. So now in these days we use the cookie. Okay. So why the cookie is required? I told before also, when I first visit to gmail.com, it asks for my username and password. I give that, and then I can see. When I send my second request, it should know that it comes from the same person or not. So for that, they use the session ID. So in long back, how the session ID is used, they keep the session ID in the URL itself. So like this, you can see the token and all given. So like this, they have kept the session IDs. So if this is known to the attacker can easily take it out. Okay, because it's there in the URL itself. Okay, they can extract from here and they will go as some other person. And later what they have done is, they kept it in the HTML code itself. That is the web code, in the web page itself they kept. So how they keep is, they put the HTML text box where it is like hidden. Okay, so they don't display on the web page, but it is hidden in the web page. So there the session ID is used. If you are hiding and if somebody goes and see the code, that is, if I want to see the code of this, let's say somewhere we can find out. So you can see the code. Okay, if you see the code and if it is hidden, then you can find out that the particular data is the hidden data is available, and that hidden data contains the session. Again, using that, they will extract or they can get into the machine as the victim. Okay, now what they are doing is they are keeping it in the cookie. Okay, so once the data comes, it is stored in the cookie, and there is no further transmission happens on the session ID, but something else is getting transferred. Okay, so if it is in the cookie and there is no, it is not visible in the web page or in the URL, then it is not possible for the attacker to gather that. So only thing is they can try through cross-site scripting. Okay, so how they will try to access the through cross-site scripting is they will try to read the cookie. So when they are trying to read the cookie, it is mandatory that we should control it. So what they do is when we write in PHP, we write that set cookie equal to 1 and the cookie is should be accessed only through HTTP, not on any other mode. Okay, if we say that cookie should be used only on the HTTP mode, so then if you are using through cross-site scripting and taking it, then the cookie will not be accessible to the particular attacker. So in that way, the session hijacking can be controlled. But you know, after that, if they use the cross-site request forgery and all, there is a possibility. So that's why when we write the web page or website, we should be very careful. The reason is, you know, most of the time when the person writes the website, he targets only on the outcome and the optimization, whether it is taking less time or not, and the desired information is there or not. He may not be the security expert in it. So that's why we have to take it to the next level where the security testing will be done. And most of the time the web service is the one, or the website is the one the people will get into, okay, or perform the attack. So it is very much required where we will do this security testing, then we will go for the production. So production in the sense for the usage. And the next attack is the path traversal attack, and mostly it's not happening these days. Let's say there is some file present that is .png file. Okay, so in the web page it will be accessed and it will be displayed as a part of the web page. Let's say, see this particular symbol is coming. This must be some file. Okay, this is some image which is available. So, and this image is accessed by this particular web page code, and it is presented. So now what the attacker will do is, let's say the code is written like this. Template is read.php, then include in the particular program, and this particular code is available in so and so folder. Okay, you can see here it is written home users PHP demo templates. So what happens here, home PHP, home is, it is taking to the root directory. It's not the root directory, it is taking to the base directory. So then you can see users and the location, the complete thing is given. And now what attacker will do, they will modify this. Okay, here you are looking for red.php, but they will write like this because the template should be some value to be given, and here it is given as red.php, but they will give some other with the path, and in the path they will try to bring out the password of the system. Okay, so in this way the path traversal can happen. And one more thing, when you write the website, the code will be put on a particular folder. Okay, and when we want to access the folder, access the web page, we have to go and access like by giving the home page address. Okay, by default in all application, the home page will be index.html or index.php they keep. But there are people, they don't keep that index file in the folder. They keep something and user has to access based on that. For example, login1.html. In case the attacker gives the URL and that folder, after that the slash, once they you enter, it will display all the file names. Okay, from that, there is a possibility they may go back or they may move forward and get the information. So we have to be very careful. It is not only on the website. It is like you write the code and you make sure that the code is written securely. It is not only on that. You have to go one step ahead. You have to see the machine, that whatever machine you are going to host, and what about its configuration. Okay, that also you have to see. And there are cases where you can also do now, because you host on some other machine, you may not be the administrator. So you can also control it by adding the index.html or index.php. By default, that will be taken as the URL for the particular folder. It will not display all the files. So in this way, the path traversal attack can be controlled. So is it clear? If you have any doubt, please let me know. Guys? Because almost I have completed. I have only maybe 5 minutes to talk. If you have any doubt, then let me know. Are you all connected?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, somebody was asking about the TCP fin. I don't know who is that. Can you write that question, please? Who is that? TCP fin attack. Yes, it is possible. But one thing with the TCP fin attack, no, they see the timer. Okay, if the timer is expired, then by default they will close the connection. Okay, so once the TCP fin request is sent by the client or by the server, if there is no acknowledgement, further acknowledgement, they will close the connection. Okay, they have the timer. Up to the timer they will wait. After that they will close the connection. Okay, in that way it will be mitigated. But you know, when we talk about this two generals problem, I hope most of you must be knowing the two generals problem. In computational theory there is no solution for it, but some say that TCP SYN establishment, connection establishment, solves the problem, but TCP fin attack, that is a TCP connection disconnection, is not solving the problem of two generals issue. Okay, but it can be mitigated since they are having the timer.
Any other questions from participants?
Hello.
Yes, please.
So this is Vinith from Canadian Sultanpur, and I have a question regarding persistent and non-persistent cross-site scripting attack.
Yes.
There is any provision where we can find out whether a particular website or web application is vulnerable with respect to persistent or non-persistent cross-site scripting attack?
See, I cannot give any website, because even I don't to my students also, I don't encourage them. I always says you have to make that, because by mistake if you do something, then they go for you have to face the consequences. Okay, that's why I don't suggest them. But there are tools available. Maybe you can write to me later. I will send you the link. You have to download the tool and then you can test it. Okay. See, if you are going one step, the attacker will go 2 steps ahead. Okay. So accordingly, you can find that in the tool also. Okay. But I cannot suggest some of the website. Even I know there are websites still they don't have the SSL. Okay. Because of that, the username and passwords are going in plain. And when I talk to them, they said that why we need security. So I have not asked anything more than that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So,
Anything
any
else?
other questions?
Okay, if no questions, let me go to my last slide. Okay, then I will finish it. So you can see this.
Okay.
What you can understand from this. Sorry, my connection was disconnected. So am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now what you can understand from this, guys? Are you getting any information? Anything you got from this?
Yes, sir. Very informative session.
Okay.
So, any other questions from
Just 1 minute, let me
participants?
complete. So what that image shows is, so when you put water, if you take some portion of water from your home and put it on the ocean, and later if you try to take your water, that is not possible. Okay, the same thing in the it is in YouTube. We control it by writing to YouTube, don't put there, or removing from Facebook or removing from Twitter. But what happens when somebody has downloaded and keep in their machine? Okay, so please be careful while uploading any data. Once it is posted, you cannot bring it later. Okay, and you cannot delete it. It will be there in the internet world and it will remain. Okay, so this is what I would like to say. Thank you so much for the listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was very informative and useful session, and I think participants learned lots of things from you, especially for TCP security and all these things. Thank you, session. Thank you, sir. And please send some PPT or other study materials. So I will share with the participants, and
Okay,
also
okay,
I will share the recording of this session with the participants.
okay,
And
okay, okay,
thank you, sir. In future, we will invite you for another lecture. And
okay. Okay. So if any of the participants have doubt, you can write to me. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Harsh. So I think I can leave now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So, participants, now there is a lunch break. So, we will join again at 2 o'clock. Okay. So, Professor Johri from INPRUS University will be our expert at that session. So, have you submitted your attendance, or I will end the meeting? Okay, okay. So now this is lunch break. So we will meet